Hi, friends. Welcome to Tuesday Q&A. This is for our eating PCs. So somebody wrote, let me read it exactly the way they wrote it. How do I recognize true hunger and fullness cues and separate them from boredom emotional ones? Really good question. So how do we do that? How do we do that? First thing I think of is something you might have heard me say before, which is curiosity. Really bringing in an element, an experience, a way of seeing all of it with curiosity. That means, wow, I wonder. I'm so fascinated with this thing. And I mean fascinated in a good way. We've been sort of fascinated with in a bad way. Like I'm looking at this so that I've got to stop, and I have a lot of mind chatter saying how bad this is that this experience happens the way it does. And while, yeah, there's suffering when we overeat, and there's kind of a numbness when we graze eat, and of course there's weight on the body or an intense need to manage the thinness that feels incredibly stressful. We don't really favor those experiences. So no wonder, we're interested in seeing that change. But so just looking at this, there's cues. First of all, even just let's get it so simple. Hunger cues, physical hunger cues. I mean, we've all heard about, and don't we all want to and are interested in eating when we're hungry and stopping when we're full. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. Great if it seemed so simple like that, and it just doesn't happen because we get these other cues about boredom or emotional experience, which not always, but propels us towards something to work with the emotions that we're having or the boredom that we're experiencing. So being so curious and noticing, we do know when it almost is a feeling inside that is one of, I'm bored, this is dull, I need a little more entertainment, I'd like some more pleasure, I'd like to move closer to pleasure. Emotional experience around eating. I'd like to also move a little closer to pleasure. I'd like to move away from something painful. I don't like that emotion over there. I want to change my emotion. We know what that's like. We know what it's like, especially if we slow down literally for like 30 seconds. Sometimes there's such a speedy movement to, oh my gosh, quick. There's almost a fear of the emotions itself, or a fear of this apparently bored, empty moment. I'm afraid of it, so I want to zip quickly towards pleasure, towards a fulfillment or some kind of satisfaction. Quick, like almost like a little mini panic just for a split second. Well, those, if you just can slow down for a moment out of curiosity, what's happening here? What was going through my mind? What's running? And to notice the sensations of hunger, which often people will feel like are really, really suppressed. I don't even know when I'm hungry anymore. I don't know when I'm hungry. I don't know when I'm full. In the most really simple way, sometimes it's this waiting, and you have a lot more leeway, at least I've found, than we ever know. Like, you don't have to be ravenously hungry to have the cue, great, now it's time to eat. You can just be very mildly. And sometimes hunger shows up in sort of a full body feeling, not the stomach growling. Maybe there's just sort of a slight weakness. Maybe you have a thought about food that isn't out of boredom or emotional life. And that's a cue. Just getting accustomed to your body again and feeling and trusting that it's there. So if you have the thoughts that that cue doesn't exist, I would question that. Question it. Because it's just a matter of tuning in just a little to what is hunger for me and what am I hungry for? Is it food or something else? And to let yourself see this. Often the only reason we have trouble with this particular way of seeing, or this kind of moment that comes up, is we're critical of ourselves for feeling bored or feeling emotional and wanting comfort or soothing somehow, like critical for wanting to move towards pleasure and away from pain. But that's a human experience. Everybody wants to do that with their mind and their thought and their personal world. Like want things to be easy and smooth and relaxed and peaceful. So perceiving whatever we think of as not so peaceful, and that includes boredom. There's like a restlessness there, churning. Fantastic to give yourself literally 3 minutes, if that's all you can stand, to write and identify your thoughts. And if you can't even write, start talking out loud. What's going on right now? What's going on right now? Oh, what are you thinking and believing in the moment? How are you seeing things? How are you seeing this world in this moment? What do you believe has been happening in this moment here, right now? What's running in your mind? And it's fast. I know it's very fast. If your mind is like mine, it's just speedy and zinging all over the place sometimes. It's just what it does. It just churns out thought, churning out the thought. But to see that's just thought, and it's possible to drop down into your body and feel, am I hungry? What do I need? Wow, I'm curious about what's going on. Something feels a bit off. I mean, that's sometimes all you've got in the moment, because something really wants to get away from what's painful. It really wants to move away from what's painful. I have noticed, often we talk a lot about how at the end of the day is so incredibly common, either in the evening after a final meal of the day, or even just at the end of the day, like before a final meal, potentially. But there's been a lot of hours doing work and activities and taking care of business and responding and being in activity. A lot of hours doing that. And then finally there's this, at the end of the day, kind of a slower, quieter, relaxed. Everything is closing down. And that is when many of us will have trouble with cues that come alive that say, I'm bored or I'm upset about something, because they've just been hovering underneath the surface there, but then they have more capacity. You're not busy, so they come up and they're here. Woo, boom. It's just because there's other duties that are not required to be being handled right there in the moment. So here come these ideas, but those are incredible to just take only 30 seconds. I mean, thinking about this, it's so short. Wow, what's going on right now? Could I just hold still and let the mind run? Let it be so busy all over the place, watching what's happening, wanting to go away from whatever's painful and move towards comfort, relaxation, peace, rest, openness. Noticing that that's just very human. And could I be still for a moment? We hardly ever even, I still don't, that doesn't occur to me initially right away when there's been a very full, very busy day with a lot of activity and a lot of work and work that I even love. It's like just this not kind of looking and seeing, could I just take a moment and relax without that a push to move into the next moment, seeing whatever that is, and just relax, just rest quietly, just sit. sometimes people with meditation practices have the time that they meditate in the morning, and they also have time that they meditate later in the day. And I would often find if I did it later in the day, I'd fall asleep, especially if it was like before bedtime, and I'm definitely not going to sleep for the night yet, like at 8 p.m., but I'd fall asleep because there'd be this incredible kind of shutting down of everything. And then I thought, maybe we just better not even do it at that time. But I would recommend staying with it, because there's something about, or doing it at like the 5 o'clock hour or something. Just what if we added, instead of like doing so much work around what you shouldn't be doing with food and eating, is just to allow things to be there the way they are for even only 5 minutes. Just getting quiet, shutting the eyes. Even if you have a big family and you're the person who's cooking for people and a meal needs to run, I mean, very interesting to hold. What if I could sort out how to sit for only 5 minutes quietly, just very still? And I know that can sound, when I think about that and my kids are really young, I think, oh God, I don't know how that could even be possible. But just to see even the element of quieting something inside, just being open, like nothing has to happen quickly. Nothing's an emergency. There's no urgency. I love the word urgent, because we say urges is the root of it. And often in an urge, there is an urgency. There's like quickness is sort of the name of the game right there. It's like what's happening. What if I just slowed it down a little and just allowed myself to be curious? If I can't do it in the moment, could I do it in a quieter moment? Maybe it is in the morning, just wondering about what's going on in that typically difficult time when I can't seem to find my cues around hunger as opposed to boredom and emotions. Just to see like what's going on. Boredom I usually think of as an emptiness, an umbrella of emptiness about life, that something's missing here. We need to fill in blanks with something. And then emotions, often a sense of just being upset, being troubled by something that's occurred, some kind of situation. These are perfect for doing the work of Byron Katie. The depths of self-inquiry, and wondering, as we look, if that story that I'm telling is true, and who would I be if it wasn't? Who would I be without the story? Who would I be? And allowing my imagination to move in that direction. It's all imagination. Just to turn in a different direction towards, who am I without the story? What's happening here without my story? And realize that I have built in with me, by being a human being with a body, hunger cues. But some of us have to get to know them again. We might have ignored them for a long time, or even they've frightened us. Sometimes people get nervous about hunger cues. It feels really scary to be hungry, because maybe we've been on a lot of diets. There's some traumatic experience from dieting, enforcing hunger, and sort of a love-hate, push-pull experience with hunger itself. And fullness, a lot of self-hatred around fullness. I did this to myself. So just seeing there's different thoughts and beliefs about those states of being physically itself, all worthy of questioning and relaxing into it. Just taking one step at a time, 4 questions, and finding turnarounds can be incredibly helpful. It can offer a process for just follow these steps. But I'd start with being curious about these 2 aspects of hunger. Hunger for something more, mind hunger versus physical hunger. Really what we're talking about here. And that our minds do get very hungry for more, for consuming, for taking in, for avoiding, for getting away from. And those are so powerful to question. In fact, sometimes as we question those, physical hunger becomes more clear. It felt like it was subtle before, and it becomes more, oh, now I get it, because those things are not so strong and kind of overriding the other hungers we have. But it's very sweet. Be curious and ask ourselves the question, what am I truly hungry for? And just nothing else but pausing. I mean, it is to literally pause for 30 seconds to even remember I'm pausing right now can be incredible for shifting the pattern and the energy, for interrupting the way I usually do the cycle. So give it a try and notice if you feel like, wow, I wanted to do this, and stop for 30 seconds and just be curious, or meditate for 5 minutes, and it just seems like I keep not doing it. Well, set it up, put a little alarm on your phone, just see, because it's like being curious about being curious. Start there. I want to be curious about being curious around this. That has worked for me. It's very interesting how the resistance will make it so it just doesn't occur to you. You just move the usual pattern way, the groove that you've been doing, like let's go eat something here, or let's go fill this moment with something entertaining, something pleasurable. So let's avoid this kind of moment where I don't want to see that over there. Just to leave everything alone, let it be the way it is. And just do that 5 minutes, 30 seconds of pausing, 5 minutes of meditating, 3 minutes of writing down what it is that you're thinking, and see what happens. See what happens. Very simple. Let me know how it goes. Okay, lots of love.